you.
Is the camera on?
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not in charge. I'm only in charge of this one. So, go through life and you do the things that you think will make you happy. In one way or another, everyone is seeking happiness. And they find it in different things, in different ways, at different times. But it tends to change over time, what makes you happy. And it tends to be fleeting, something that comes and goes in your life. You strive for it in different ways and find it in varying degrees at different times. But you'll notice that life hands you roses and shit. You get both. You get to be happy sometimes, and sometimes you get to be unhappy. Sometimes the things that have brought you the most joy bring you the deepest sadness. So this seeking for happiness has one thing in common, all the different paths, is that you're reaching outside of yourself to get this state of happiness or temporary state of peace. The truth is that the only sustainable happiness is within. So, I went to see my gurus. First I went to see Baba. And Baba was keyed in. He had that happiness. I could see he just exuded it all the time. I wanted a piece of that for myself. And I thought he had it. I was still seeking outside of myself. Now, Baba's main teaching in the phrase was just, God dwells within you as you. So everything was about going within. But I was still seeking without, because that's what I did. And you see, while I was with Baba, that was still working. But then he up and died. And, that was something I hadn't conceived of. And I was in a great deal of pain. I couldn't go to the meditation hall without crying. And for 2 years, it was like that. So I still hadn't found what it was that Baba was pointing at. Because Baba wasn't pointing outside. He was pointing within. But while he was alive, I had it outside. But then it just became part of that duality that all of this is a part of. You have good and you have bad. You have peace and you have chaos. You have joy and sadness. That's this world. And so whenever you look outside to this world, you think, oh, I know, I'll get this really cool car. And you get it and you're like, well, this is great. And 5 years later, you're ready to trade the sucker in. Because it ain't working anymore. Bad example, but still. It just gives you a sense of it, And it's so really the peace that you want is actually here all the time. It's within. It's within you. And it's not something that is far away. Like, okay, so you're you, whatever you are. The body's getting older, the body changes, but you're still you. You haven't changed. You're the same. I heard this great saying that inside every old person is a young person wondering what the hell happened. But you see, there's this continuum that is always with you. And it goes deeper than just you. And if you look there, you might find what that is. You might recognize that there is a peace that's with you all of the time. Now, I'm going to separate that from happiness, because happiness has an opposite, which is sadness, or whatever. Mm-hmm. You see, that's not peace. People confuse. They think when they're happy, they're at peace. But they're just on the opposite end of sadness. Mm-hmm. You see? And they're comfortable with it, that's all. There's a sense of comfort that comes, but there is a sense of true peace that is always with you. It's not far away. It's actually so close that if you reach for it, you go further away from it. It's right where you are now. So all that's happened is all of your attention has been absorbed by your thoughts and feelings, and all of your attention has gone to this world of change, of constant churning and motion, you see. So you're lost in this movement, and really what's going on here is stillness. As soon as your mind stops, what you feel is the silence, the stillness of now, you see. But we have this interesting little illusion here where there appear to be all these distinctions. There appear to be all these different things. You not only have thoughts, you have thoughts that make you happy, you have thoughts that make you sad, you have feelings that go with those different things. And so it's very interesting, you see. It's like a fire, and you just get lost in all that movement. But this movement here, this idea of distinctions, all of it is temporary. It's all smoke and mirrors. None of it has any shelf life at all. Your feelings don't have any shelf life. Your thoughts don't have any shelf life. They're constantly changing. The stillness is always the same. But when you're focused on life through the mind, stillness is nothing. And the movement is everything. So what I suggest you do is allow the mind to go on as it does, but let it be on the sidelines. And in the forefront should be that sense of being, that sense of peace that is always present. So what I do here, a great deal of the time is spent giving you concepts that will diminish the mind, diminish the importance that you place upon all of these thoughts and feelings and this whole thing that's going on, you see. Ramesh's guru, Nisargadatta, he said, "What were you before you were born? And what will you be after you die? And what makes you think you're any different now?" The truth is that you are eternal, that your essence and my essence are the same, that the thing that we were before we were born and the thing that we will be after we die is identical. It's the same thing. You have entered into a world of separation where you believe in this me character, in this idea of a separate existence from God, of a separate existence from me, from you, from everybody. And that will work for a lifetime, which seems like a long time when you're in the lifetime, but in 1,000,000 years it won't seem like anything at all. In 1,000 years it won't seem like much either. And the trick is, when now it doesn't seem like a very big deal. So you can live this life and do all the things that you do and think all the things that you think without thinking that that's you, without being lost in the doership of this body. The body just does what it does, it thinks what it thinks, it feels what it feels, it goes on, and then it stops. It has nothing to do with you. Right now, it's like you have a front row seat. It's just like you're in the movies, and you're sitting there and you're watching the movie. You're totally lost in the movie, but that's not you. Even if you enjoyed the movie, even if it was a lot of fun, it's never you. It's a movie. And even though you allow yourself to get lost in it for an hour and a half, you don't become confused. When the lights go on, you don't think you died. You remember where you parked your car and how to get home. And then you think, well, that's real.
Right.
But that's just a longer movie. That's an 80-year movie, if you're lucky. So we forget that this is a virtual reality. It's not a reality. It's all smoke and mirrors here. Nothing here lasts. You won't last. I won't last. None of this lasts. Your thoughts don't last. Your feelings don't last. All of it comes and goes and comes and goes. It's just smoke and mirror show. And it's very well designed to grab all of your attention. And when it grabs all of your attention, you forget who you are. And you think, this is who I am. But this is just a show. This is just a movie. It's a virtual reality. This is not who you are. Thank God. This is not who you are. This is just an illusion. It's a very well-designed virtual reality. And the beauty of it is that the virtual reality can go on and you don't have to live forgetting who you are. You can actually remember it through the whole thing. And then you see, life is happy and sad. You're laughing and then you're angry. There's this going on and that going on. Things you enjoy. There's pleasure, there's pain, there's all of it. But your place never changes. Because you're in that stillness, that peace that is eternal. And so you are just living everything same. There's no more of this struggle. How do I get this? How do I get rid of that? How do I feel happy? How do I not feel that? All of that stops. And you're fine with whatever. Everything's great. Everything's fine. You're just, watching the show. But it's not your show. It's not you. It's just a show. So enjoy this virtual reality by all means. But don't become confused thinking that it's real, that it is reality. It's just a temporary show. Your life will come and go. In 1,000 years, no one's going to remember it. Highly likely no one will remember it, even in 100 years. Just like that. I'm thinking, all the history I've seen in my life, the kids don't know any of it. Oh, I had brunch with the kids that came last time, Isaiah and Marimar, and she's like 20. She goes, "How old are you?" And I said, I'm 63. And she goes, "Oh, you're old." That was funny. I remember when I used to feel that. Hey, you see, these things that I remember, they'll be forgotten in history. They're just, and my mother is still alive, 99. And the things that she remembers, they'll all be gone. She doesn't remember them anymore anyway. What she used to. So you see, all this just comes and goes. Even the memory. It all comes and goes. And so, you got whatever show you got, and it went however it went, and it's going however it's going, and that's fine. It's got nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. So if you want true peace, let the primary focus be within, in that stillness. I can call it within just because it helps you have the contrast, so you can understand what I'm talking about. But living there, I can tell you it's not within, it's not without, it's everywhere. In fact, but to give you the contrast, because as an individual identified as separate, you're looking outside of yourself, and that's how it is. So I'll say, as an individual, look inside of yourself. And then if that becomes the primary point of view, then the individual is no longer the primary. And you can just see that's all there is, really, is this stillness and peace. And the rest of it is just a show going on. It's just, colors on a screen with sound, and, it looks very believable. That's all. So, that's all I got. It's up to you now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What was it like when you first met Ramesh?
It was, okay, so you see, Ramesh was something I could never dream of with Baba. because it was one-on-one. When I first came to him, there were, I think, maybe a dozen of us. It was the second time he had ever talked.
Wow.
And then thereafter, it was just Kent and I for years. And it was very odd, but Kent and I were always there at different times. For several years, we would literally pass each other in the air going to India. It was like, so one of us was always with Ramesh for a long time before he became known, which happened gradually and then suddenly. So it was very unique because, you see, as far as with Baba, I was actually very close, more than most people. Like, I got to sit at his door and be around him a lot. But with Ramesh, we were like friends. It wasn't so much the guru-disciple thing at all. It was like friends. We were buddies. And we laughed together and joked together, and we would talk about the teaching. In those days, it was very informal. It was for hours. It was hours, and then I'd have dinner over with him and his wife Sharda, and they'd talk some more until like 8 and 9, like that. So it was contact with the teacher that I could never dream of with Baba. And it was a different sort of relationship. Baba and I weren't buddies. He was the guru. I was awestruck. Ramesh, it was much more casual. Much more casual. So I remember, it must have been like the third time, we had snuck out of the ashram to see him originally. We would sneak out of the ashram, Baba's ashram. Baba had already passed, so it's Gurumayi then. And we would sneak out, so to speak, make excuses to get out. And then I remember it must have been the third time we would take the bus and the train, and Kent and I were talking, and do you think he's enlightened? And Kent goes, yeah, definitely. And I wasn't as positive because it was so casual, and I didn't have that same awestruck feeling. And so we sat down with Ramesh, and then the very first thing he says out of the blue is, "What difference does it make if someone's enlightened or not?" And that was all I needed. That was my proof. So, it was never a question from then on. Yeah, so then, after seeing him from the ashram, and it was difficult for me, Kent could get out of seva easier than I could. And so from then on, all of my trips to India were to see Ramesh. So I'd made the transition at that point. Because Gurumayi was great, we were close. I knew her well, she knew me well, but she wasn't my guru like that. I never had that with her. And so I knew that wasn't going to be. So it worked out. Worked out fine. Yeah, so then I would go see Ramesh, and after a while I would go see Shree too. Because Ramesh and I would talk. You can only take so much of this shit. You only have to hear me every other week here. But I was listening to Ramesh every single day for 6 hours, 4 hours, whatever, all the time. And it's like, your brain can only take in so much. After a while, the sponge is full. And so I had heard about Shree, when I was in junior high school. I had met his disciple who was a guru in junior high school, and I saw his picture and I always thought, I'd like to meet this guy. Well, I'm in India, I could meet him. So I found out where he was, and it's an overnight train trip, and got out there, and it was his place. It was real quiet. There weren't many people there. There weren't hardly any Westerners there. And it was quiet, very silent. And so it gave a chance for all the stuff I'd heard to soak in that silence. And I didn't have to talk anymore or listen. It was just quiet. And I didn't follow that ashram discipline. I knew it. I was familiar with it because of my friends. But it didn't matter. It's a really cool thing in India. As soon as you left Baba's ashram, which had been westernized, the Indian ashrams, they figure you traveled halfway around the world, you know why you're there. And so they don't lay down all these rules or what you should do and all of that. They figure you know why you're there. You came all that way. So it was nice to be treated like a mature seeker. And there wasn't anyone to talk to because hardly anyone spoke English. You know, in that town of Akkalkot, it was so bad. This man, there was one time, there was some big parade, something going on, and this man started talking to me. I couldn't understand him. I kept trying. And it's like, and I would pick out little bits and pieces, and it was a very difficult conversation. And finally, you know, he told me, what do you do? He said, I'm the English teacher. And this is a while back, and you know, out there, everyone wore watches, right? It was a status thing, you know. None of them told time. They didn't know how to read them or anything. It was like a piece of jewelry. So it was a very different place.
And when was that, like mid-80s or something? Or?
Yeah, it must have been about. Yeah. I'm sure they're more advanced now.
When you met Shree, what was that like when you first encountered him for the first time?
Well, it was cool because it's like I had seen his picture for 20 odd years before, you know, maybe more. Junior high school was a long time ago. So, I'm not good at dates, so I don't know. So he was a traditional Indian guru. He wore a wraparound lungi, just kind of, and he was like otherworldly in just the way he was, and it was like a traditional foot darshan. And he always did this, his blessing, and but he was so happy. He was just a bundle of joy, and I had a friend who described it the best. She said, he greets you as if he had waited his entire life for that very moment. You know, so that's the kind of energy that was there. Yeah, it was awesome. So it was really great, and so I had this blessing just to be. And so I would just, I don't know, I ate and did the regular whatever, but it was just quiet all the time. Just quiet. And the poor cook was trying to figure out what he could feed a Westerner. And they found cornflakes for breakfast. They had bananas. But, you know, I went to their fruit market. They didn't have any food out there. This is real dirt farmers. And They had potatoes and onions and carrots that bent. And bananas, and that was pretty much it. And spices. So it was very simple there. Yeah, rice. They always had rice.
Did you never get sick from the water?
Not there.
Wow.
Not there. They had their own wells. And I never had a problem there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I think they took special care with us whenever a Westerner came, because they knew the drill. Westerners had been there before.
How long did you stay?
I would stay for about a month to 6 weeks. Thereabouts, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So amazing how consciousness, just did this flow with you.
Well, I was a seeker.
Yeah.
You see, it wasn't like I wasn't looking. And there were other teachers that I met along the way that just didn't have the same resonance with, you see. So I was looking for this. I was after the trouble. So really if you're a seeker, I really think if you bring that to the table, if that's where you're at, things are more likely to happen. I mean, I wasn't just sitting in my bedroom waiting. I went all the way to India. So you see, I was after this. I knew what I wanted, and I forego a career and college and all of that stuff. Well, I graduated regularly, but I didn't go for a higher degree, and because this is what I wanted. So I always said I decided to study with a master rather than get my master's. So when I think the level of sincerity that you bring to your search gets reflected in your experiences. That's what comes to you. So, yeah.
Ananta ji, 4 years ago was my first trip to India, and it was possible because there'd been enough unraveling of the me, and that first trip was a real explosion of things just really coming apart. Including I've been in a 21-year relationship, including a 20-year marriage, and so that ended, and a whole lot of other things. And in the last 4 years, I didn't think it was really possible for me to be in an intimate relationship. I wasn't really sure why. I wasn't looking for it. And it was just sort of a niggling thing, but not something I paid much attention to. And in the last several months, here it is again. It's what the universe brought. And I realized that part of what was happening, what was holding, was this belief, I guess it's with all of me, any part of me, that somehow the me has to be there to show up. It's not the me thinks of course, it's not just about being, there's a me showing up. And then it became clear a few months ago that, it's just this crazy idea. And it's, now it's been released, but to be in an intimate relationship. Somehow I had to be a me, kind of like, you know, Mad Magazine, like Spy versus Spy. It was me versus me, and that's how it had to be. And so it's clear now that's, you know, it's not the case. But what I was wondering is, if you wouldn't mind saying something about, as the me was breaking down in your case, and, you know, if you were in an intimate relationship at that point, what was, if you remember, if it's something you can talk about, you know, what was that like?
In the latter years, the last few years of my sadhana, I wasn't in a relationship. However, after the enlightenment happened, I got married. So you see, so I know that belief system just ain't so, because, you know, karma is karma. And the way relationships work is, if a relationship is meant to be, you can fight it all you want, and it's going to happen anyway. And if a relationship isn't meant to be, you can do everything to go after it, and it ain't going to happen. So they have a will of their own because of karma. And belief systems, whatever they are always based in the me. You see? Without the me, there's no belief. Everything just is. It's very simple. You see? But with the me, there's a bunch of systems. And that's okay. You know, and the karmas are different for all beings. So you know, Shree was married. You just wouldn't think so, the kind of being that he was. And I heard it wasn't really his choice, it was just kind of his culture. That was the tradition. So it was fine. Now, Baba, he took vows. He wasn't married. But, you know, one of his successors, Gajanan, I just heard he is married. I didn't know. You know, so there's no rules about this. Ramesh was happily married for a long time, and she was an amazing being, Sharda. So there's no rules about it. And I can tell you, the relationship can go on without the me being involved. But you understand that even if the enlightenment happens, I describe things so you can understand them. And it makes it seem very black and white. But everything's gray. And it's not like there's no me. Although the scriptures will tell you whatever you read, the gurus will say, the me is dead, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But I don't care who the guru is. You say their name, and they say yes. You see? So there's still something. There's still something there. There's no identification with it. That's all. The identification with the me ceases. But the me continues on. You still have your personality. You still have your preferences, the basic things that you like and don't like. Maybe some have changed, maybe some haven't. That's how it is. So it's like you see how all of it goes. Was there a question in there?
You've answered it. I just wanted to hear exactly what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, so, you see what happens. Now, you see, when Kelly and I got together, it was like, she said all this nice stuff. I didn't hold her to it because I've heard all that nice stuff before. It doesn't mean anything, right? And so we knew each other. We were friends. We'd known each other for 6-7 years, and then we ended up getting together, and she was at my house for, like some time. I can't remember anymore how long. It was longer than normal for me to have a guest. And I knew she had another place to stay, and I said, okay, I think this is probably long enough for now. And I guess she was really put off by that. But I didn't know. and so she went over to her friends. I didn't call her for a couple of weeks. Because after a couple of weeks, I realized I liked it better when she was there. And so I called her up and told her that. We got together for a meal, and she had written this. She had gotten there early and wrote a whole note out, which for her is a big accomplishment. And she didn't want me to read it, but of course I took it, and I read it, and it was like heartfelt, like she's 100%. And how dare I not, really recognize that, whatever. And I got it. It was true. And I got that she had written much more than she ever would have shown me had I not taken it. So I kept the note and I wouldn't give it back. 2 years later, I held her for a couple of years because I thought it would scare her. Yeah. So we've been together ever since, you see. But she knows how it is with me. She used to come to the first year of talks, and she used to say, she said, he loves you the same as he loves me. It's just, he sleeps with me. She had to make that clear. but still.
I remember when she said that.
You remember that?
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, she understands how it is. And she has her own natural understanding of it. But she's never been a seeker, you see. And really, she thinks this is all a bunch of bullshit anyway. And she's right. But you see, I was totally into it when I was a seeker. And apparently, a dozen of you are still into it, so it's fine.
We appear to be.
I've done everything I can to get rid of you.
Yeah, we keep coming. We keep showing.
Not to try harder.
Yeah, you used to bake cookies.
Yeah, I used to bake cookies. And Kelly used to make tea, remember?
Stop making cookies.
Well, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm not quite up to it. I haven't made those cookies in a long time, mandel bread. Maybe someday. I think I made them for one of the intensives or something.
Ananta.
Yeah.
So back on that subject again of relationships.
Yes.
So, when I was with Law, we pretty much, well, he's actually the one who got me on this path. Well, I actually met him at a Buddhist retreat. We were there for the same purpose. Well, I think he was looking for a wife.
Oh, well.
So maybe that was his real purpose.
Well, there you go.
But he had an equal passion to be free. I mean, let's say they were just equal. So, it's interesting because we really didn't go through that, that whole dating thing, that sorting it out and getting attracted and all that. Was the 60s then, and you just took off in the van and went to explore the world and other gurus. And I actually really liked that, because that was our first priority. And now, now that Lal is, not in body anymore, and I'm here, every now and then going on a date, every now and then. It's really interesting because what I can see is that it's not even like it matters really, because it's just the movie, right? We're watching a popcorn vibe. Halfway through, there's a point at which the character I can see gets identified. And that's just what the character is going to do, because that's what's happening. And then I'll open up Robert Adams or something, and I'll see the phrase jump out at me: mind the business for which you came. So this is just a thought, but the thought comes through my brain. You know, this seems like a distraction.
What does?
A relationship with a man. It feels like a distraction, you know, because then there's like an identification or something that's starting to happen. Because you get all the chemicals starting to go on in the body. And then the energy, I just saw my energy getting kind of going sideways a little bit and more identified.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't have to be any problem, but you're just watching this and then you see, if my first love really, I don't know, it all just does itself, but it's sort of a weird movie. You know, going, like doing a date thing. I guess unless it's not, you know.
Well, you know, it's an individual thing, you see.
Yeah, I guess.
So it really depends upon how it works for you. You see, like with Lal, it wasn't that way.
Right.
You see? So, but with someone else it might be. You have to see. You have to see how that all works. You know, you might make a decision, that's not for me anymore. But you also might meet someone where you're on the same path, and it's just a complement. You see? So it all complements each other. And then you meet people who it doesn't. So you just make the decision for yourself and the best you can, and see, you know, that it could make your life harder, it could make it more difficult.
Harder or more
Or
difficult?
easier. Harder or easier.
Harder or more difficult?
I think that's your answer.
You know, the universe always sort of guides you. It
Could make
always
it
does.
easier and more difficult is
Make
what I
it
meant to
worse or
say.
worser?
It's not what I said.
I know.
So you'll have to see. You'll have to see.
It's really amazing to me. My mind just gets blown away at how you're just organically steered
Karma.
one way or the other.
It's karma.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
towards something for
Yeah,
a
yeah.
while, and then it veers off to the
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. It's all karma. It's all karma. You know, it's part of the illusion that makes it seem real are these karmic forces and hormones and all these different things that are very compelling and things that have a will of their own that no matter what you do, they're going to happen. You know, even for an enlightened being, there's still karmas. Maybe there's no new ones being created, but the old ones are still, the ones that are established that someone can see in your astrology chart, they're still going to come. There's still going to be certain difficulties. There's still going to be some hardships. There's still going to be some great things and relationships, whatever it is. And certain ones will change without a me or a sense of doership. Certain things do change, but other things are going to happen. They're written in stone. So you can watch it and marvel at it and enjoy it because, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. It's also really good when you can see that you're not in control. Because when you think you're in control, you're really messed up. That'll mess you up good. When you think you're in charge, then the me is like a big deal. And then what you do is a big deal. And then the values you put on what you do are a big deal. And you see? And then it's all like some big deal, but it's really nothing at all. And you get confused and you forget who you are. So the more that you can see that there are forces controlling what you think, say, and do, and what happens to you, the more you can say, "Ooh, this is not my show. I'm not in control." And then you can release and just watch it instead of being the supposed driver. You see? Because this is the thing, you see, when you're identified with separation, you think you're doing everything. But you're not.
But what if you kind of know that you're not doing everything and you know that you're not in control? But to me, it still seems like there can, it's like, I guess it's just like everything, like life. You're just tooling along, watching a movie, and then all of a sudden you're in the movie. And you don't quite know how you got fully identified in that moment, but then there's the awareness, wow, there was the identification. So then, somehow by grace, that you're not identified again, and I guess it just keeps on going like that until it doesn't. Huh?
Yes, indeed, yeah. Yeah, the identification comes and goes for a while. That's all. And if you were in charge, then maybe it wouldn't. It would just be gone, right? But you would be in charge then, so it has to keep coming and going because you think you're in charge. You think you're not being identified. So there's a problem there.
Oh my God.
There's a slight little flaw in that ointment called you, me.
Yeah, that is like a little glitch there.
Little glitch, yeah. It's well described. The ego is a little glitch. Anyway, so you just watch what happens. You see? So there's situations you find yourself in, and it's like, how did this happen? You see? And then, there's things that you're 100%, this is it, you're going to let go of it, and you don't. And it's like, and then there's situations, it's like, this is right, I know this is right, I'm going to go for it. Nothing happens. You see? And so really, this life and the events and your thoughts and feelings, all of it should be a source of amusement to you. You see? It's amazing, the crap that you'll think of. It's funny. It's like, you should be amused by all of this. This is just a cosmic joke. And enjoy whatever happens. Enjoy not enjoying whatever happens. Just have a ride. That's all. You're on a ride. This is God's amusement park. This is a Jacoby ride. Yeah. So just enjoy it and see what happens. Just see what happens. So, one time I was with Ramesh, and he goes, well, we'll just see what happens. And he goes, that should be your mantra. Just let's see what happens. With a sense of excitement and adventure. Let's see what happens. You just have that attitude toward everything. You don't know what's going to happen. Stay hands off and just see. See what happens.
I have this photograph of Lal and me, in between Lal and his best friend, who's also not in body anymore. And in the background, this is at the pond, this Yay God community that they all dropped out and went into this commune. In the background it says, painted on the handmade teepee, see what comes.
Yeah.
It's such a good reminder. And on Das's shirt, on his t-shirt, it says, don't worry, be happy. It's just like words from heaven for me.
Yeah, and you see that's all from a place of detachment. You see? Just detachment. And just the more you can just let the me be on the sidelines, the happier you'll be. Just with everything. And the more peace you'll feel in your life. Just let whatever goes on go on. It doesn't need any help from you. And including the whole dating, whatever it is, it's not in your hands. It's like whatever, and you just see. You just see, when it's right, you'll know because you'll have the resonance. You know, you'll have the resonance and it will be irresistible. And when it's not right, you'll know that too. You just follow and see. And
Well, to me, there can be like this amazing resonance that's happening. But what I've seen is that can happen with me and almost anyone.
oh,
And so then what I see is that, to me, well, you know, I don't know, this is an idea, a concept, but to me, real resonance would be that which, you can't even put it into words, because there's no deeper, but that which brings you closer to God, for lack of words. Even though you can't get closer to God.
well, no, it doesn't matter. There's a longing, you see. Just a natural longing. So you'll see with the relationships, you had a relationship with Lal that fulfilled both. You see?
Yeah.
So, you know, you've been spoiled. So.
It's yeah, I'm so spoiled.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a really hard act to follow.
Yeah, that's yeah, so just see, you know, see, you'll know.
See what comes.
Yeah, exactly. See what comes, and don't worry, be happy.
Exactly.
You see, just tattoo that on your forehead, and it'll be fine.
It's really a dance, isn't it? It's all such a dance.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course, it'll just continue as long as you're in the dance hall.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I like what you just said, you know, let's just see what happens. I think I'm saying this because that feels really applicable to my situation right now. Maybe I could hear some advice as to, or your point of view as to what I'm not seeing or whatever. But like, you know, in my community there's been, well, the group of people that I see most often, there was some incident between a couple of them that has started, you know, getting some people talking and attitudes changing about a few of them, between those two, about them two, because of what happened. And I was not feeling comfortable with it. I didn't want to get sucked in because I know I wasn't going to react well. And I avoided it for a few weeks, and then finally I heard something and I was like, well, let's just see what happened. I'm going to speak my mind. And then it's been horrible for like 2 days, you know, like full of anxiety, totally. The second it comes up, I can't let go of it. And totally involved.
Mm-hmm.
And the first day, it was just like all these emotions are coming up, all these points of views. I can tell that I'm like, oh, like I'm right about this, you know, and I want to be heard. And I'm like, well, let's just try to sit with this and let's just watch this feeling. But I have a big aversion to whatever the heck I'm feeling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to sleep. I got enough sleep, but it was not very restful.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, I like sat with it again, and I was like, okay, I can kind of see I don't like feeling unheard. I feel like I need control over this. I'm correct. People need to like do it my way. And like, I can see that at some point I had decided that to be in this situation, this was never satisfied, and I just avoided it. And this time I can kind of be with it a little bit. So I've been playing. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm okay. I think I'm okay. Then I get like a message on the phone, and I'm like, I see it's them. You know, I'm like trying not to touch it. I think I can touch it. I go touch it, you know, I respond, and then I'm like sucked right back into it, you know, and it's hard. I feel like it's been a lot worse other times. I might be getting some okayness with how I'm dealing with all this, but man, let's just see what happens is exhausting, you know? So I kind of want to just shelve this thing and be like, you know what, like I really don't want anything to do with you guys, you know? And a friend of mine that is part of that, she did come to me and she's like, I could use some input from you, you know, about what's going on. And I'm like, dude, I'm like totally biased here. Totally biased against you. That wouldn't be fair to you. You know, I don't think I could actually be a part of this. And that's what I'm going through right now.
Wow. Well, this too shall pass. Just notice your involvement, okay? Really stare down your involvement. And confront it as your involvement with your thoughts and feelings and your opinion. You know, a person can have an opinion, a person can have a thought, a person can express it, and then a person can be done. But you can't, because this has residue for you, and there's personal involvement, okay? That's not anyone else's fault. That's you. That's for you to deal with. So make that a personal project, okay? Instead of someone else has to deal with it. You see? This is just for you. And this is me work, okay? Which is not what I do. But I know what it is. So, but you have to process. And the thing about it is, when there's residue like this, it means there is unconscious behavior, unconscious things going on. So you need to stare it down so that this is all conscious for you. Probably it reminds you of something that has nothing to do with any of these people. And that's what you need to be looking at so that you can be clean in the moment, okay? And you may be totally right. Doesn't matter. You have to know yourself. And, you know, by that I mean know exactly who you aren't. Know all of the aspects of this me. The thing about the me is that the me sets it up. It's done very well. It's very well designed. It sets it up so that there's back doors. So that no matter how high your intellectual understanding is of who you are, the me can come in through the back door because there's aspects of the me that you know nothing about, and they can control your life. And they can cause involvement to arise that are totally out of your hands. You can't do anything about it. And they can do it at the oddest times, in the oddest circumstances. So you have to be brave enough to go into the weeds of this crazy person that you think you are and learn to fully accept all that is there. If you can bring love and acceptance to all aspects of yourself, the residue will cease. Okay? And when the residue is there, it tells you that there is a part of you that you are not unable to love. So this is as far as I'm going to go with personal work. Make it your mission to fully accept every aspect of yourself. And you will find the unaccepted places where there is residue and very uncomfortable feelings. Okay? And so just don't make it about them, because it's not about them. The feelings are too strong. They're you. You see? So it happens all the time. You have these situations, you have these people, and you have unwarranted feelings sometimes arise. Some of them are karmic, but oftentimes they are arising from a place that you don't know about. So here's the thing. In order to get out of the trap of the me, of thinking of yourself as a separate individual, a part of you has to get into it and see it for what it is. 100%. Not just the easy parts. You're talking about the hard parts now. Okay? And so this is a gift. Your situation is a gift to you, bringing up things that you would have never seen otherwise. Accept it as a gift. Accept the whole situation as a gift for you and go within with it. Okay? And even though it is brought out by outer circumstances, don't go to those circumstances. They're not going to solve it. It's only going to be solved within. And the rest you can go to someone who does counseling work if you need to, or you can just figure it out. I used to write all the time, and that helped my process a lot. That I was being able to pick apart what was going on in that way. So whatever your personal process is, keep it that, and don't be confused. Your outer circumstances are a gift showing you what your inner circumstances are. You see? Yeah, keep it internal, and deal with it as your thing, and the rest will work itself out the way it does. Yeah, then you can see what happens. Yeah, but it is, when you have that residue, when you have that, you like you said it, you slept but you didn't sleep very well, it's like with you all the time. When you have that, that is telling you that within there is something that is not being loved. You see? When, everyone is so messed up. Everyone. You can look around and see it, but you're messed up too. And so it's like, loving yourself doesn't mean that you're not messed up anymore. But you're not messed up about being messed up. You see, you don't suffer with it. All my gurus were crazy. They all had their issues. I'm sure they could all go to a shrink and get a lot of relief. But none of them were messed up about it. None of them cared. All of them were fine with it. And that's what you want to be. You see, no residue. And Baba would yell at the cooks all the time. He had no residue at all. He didn't care. He didn't think, oh, I'm an enlightened being, I'm a guru, what am I doing behaving this way? Never. Never crossed his mind. But you see, no residue at all. He could yell at the cooks, throw pots and pans, and turn around and hug someone and would be totally gone. It would just be love. 100%. You see? That's a normal feeling. It arises like a wave, subsides. You see? When it doesn't do that, it tells you there's something for you to look at. Sure.
Ananta,
Yes.
do you think that it's helpful for the unfolding of the finally the no I, that a person is integrated. So like say if I get identified, to ask myself the question, okay, wow, that was a fly paper. What exactly hooked me? What was it? Oh, they were pink polka dots instead of stripes, and I went off, you know. And then
It's, you know, you can go into the specifics. Sometimes it's important, but what the most important thing is to notice that you got involved. And when you notice that you got involved, it's like, oh, look at that, there's involvement. Usually then it's gone. Usually then it just goes. You see, so that would be the easiest. Sometimes you need to find something, like I said, you know, sometimes there's a mission involved to find something that you're not loving about yourself. But oftentimes, you see, so like if you recognize, oh, there's involvement, and it poofs, then you're fine. If it stays, then there's something for you to look at. And then you can process it any way that works for you. You see? But really it's almost not important unless it is. You know, unless you really need to do it and it's compelling, fine. But it doesn't matter, because you are who you are and you're not who you're not. And that's pretty much the story. You see? And when you think that you are who you're not, you watch how that works, and there's this suffering that goes on. And so, you know, you can learn to enjoy that suffering. If you're fine with it, it won't matter. You see, then it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. It's only when you got a problem. It's only when you can't love what is going on. And so what is it? Why can't you love what's going on? Sometimes you need an answer. Sometimes all you need to do is recognize the truth. And that's enough. Depends. It really depends. Like I said, all of my gurus, they were all crazy. They all had true character flaws. They really did. But who cares? It was all fine. It was just the way they were.
Did even Shree have character flaws?
I'm guessing he probably did, but you see, I didn't know him in a personal way, in an intimate way like that. My contact with him was formal, more formal than, like I didn't get to just hang out with him. I was always, except for darshan at a distance, just watching. So I don't know. He was special anyway. I mean, to be considered enlightened at birth is a totally different thing than to have a sadhana, a spiritual practice, and, you know, work your way up through the identification to the place where you came from, you know, see. So he didn't really have much of a process at all, you know, to forget and then remember, you see. So he may not have. But I don't know. I'd have to start reading up and see. I don't know if anyone knew. Or if anyone's telling. You don't know. So I've never heard though. But he did talk crazy shit. He didn't give many talks. But I read a transcript of one and I really couldn't understand what the hell he was talking about. So, you know, he was living on a different plane altogether.
Maybe it was translated by the English teacher.
Yeah. I thought that might be the case. So, anyway, you know, so he was living in a whole different genre.
What was Ramesh's character flaw?
Oh, I'm not telling.
You can't tell.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep that private. Maybe someday it'll come out, but it's unlikely. It was there. What's that?
I just was getting the difference between someone coming in enlightened at birth, you know, in remembrance, whereas most people, they forget, and it's such a journey of remembering and trying to stay awake and remember.
Right. So they had totally different teachings. All Shree did. Shree had people go out and teach for him, but he just brought in this, yajna, this fire ritual called Agnihotra that can be done by anyone, sunrise and sunset, very simple. He said it was from the Vedas from like 8,000 years ago, and he was bringing that knowledge into this world, and he had people go out and teach that, and he taught it, and that was his thing. That was what he did. So he wasn't about sadhana or anything. He was bringing in stuff that could help you, but that was it. The rest of it was he had people who went out and maybe dealt a little more with sadhana, but that wasn't.
So he didn't really have teachings.
No, except for that. Yeah, there's people around him made up teachings, but no, his was just to do the yajna, do the fire ritual, it'll take care of everything.
But I guess he was a teacher in the lineage of just, hanging out with a guru.
Well, yeah, I mean, in that regard, he was a traditional guru.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you came to him with a personal question, he would have some answer for you, but it's not like he gave talks. He had one talk a year. And that's what I read the transcript of and couldn't understand. So it's like, I thought, oh, I got to read this. And it was like, what the fuck is he talking about? This is crazy stuff. Otherworldly, whatever. So that wasn't my attraction to him. And he didn't. No, I never saw him give a talk. All those times I was with him, I never saw him give a talk once.
Maybe they didn't want him to give a talk.
Oh, I didn't care. No, he didn't. He never did. He talked to people who came and asked him a question like that. But none of that was in English. And he talked to me one time. I was, I'd seen him at his ashram in Akkalkot. And every year he did a yatra, a trip. He did this special spiritual trip by car. And he went to all these special places and he did a special blessing, whatever he did. And he went in the water and outside of Bombay. And I happened to know he was giving sadhana up on Malabar Hill in Bombay. He was giving satsang there. And so I went to see him. And I had just been at his ashram, then I went to see him there. And he just went, "You're everywhere." That's the only time he ever spoke to me.
Maybe he knew your spiritual name enough.
Then so it must have been it, yeah. You always attribute everything your guru says to a higher meaning. It could have been. But it was really, he treated me with a great deal of respect. I was allowed to be there as long as I wanted, as many times as I wanted. It was a great respect. I feel like a lot of these gurus and different people that I met along the way, they must have known and whatever they could do to help like that. Same thing with Amachi. I used to see her once a year in India at her ashram. And she always had me sit right next to her. I was no one. Yeah. I think whatever they could do to help. So, it's like that.
I'm curious where that talk with Ramesh went that one day where he said, who cares if someone's enlightened or not?
Huh? I don't know, it went on from there. But that was it, that was just, he said that, and basically said if it's your destiny to meet someone who's enlightened, you will. And if not, it can't be helped. And that's that. He didn't say he was. He never said he was, at that point, when I would see him. He never said he was a guru, he never said he was enlightened. In fact, he didn't think enlightenment was real. He said this so-called enlightenment. Because he was right, you see. Because enlightenment is not enlightenment is not what you think it is. You see? So he was correct in saying this so-called enlightenment. Because what you're all thinking enlightenment is, that ain't it. I guarantee you. Because you're thinking of it from a me point of view. And the me is absent from that scene. So it's all it is basically how you would look at things if you weren't the primary thing. You see? So that's all it is. Enlightenment is like basically a non-event. It's like nothing happened. And all it is the diminishment of the me to the point where it's like below sea level. And you can see, oh, this is what's always been here. You see? So just, yeah. So that was a different time. That was early. Later on, he accepted being a guru. You know, when people tell you that enough, okay. Well, how are we going to sell this, Ramesh? We got to say you're something. And he would have preferred sage, I think. But you know, guru came in. I remember I called him once, and I said I was going to come over, and he said, "Well, can you come and this day?" Because I was thinking a little further. I said, "Why?" Yeah, "Oh, no big deal. Nothing. It doesn't matter." It was Guru Purnima. That's why. At that point, it had already evolved to the point where a bunch of people were coming for Guru Purnima, and he liked it. I didn't know at the time. After that, I made it a point.
Well, it just wouldn't be me without being here.
Yeah, you have to say something.
I take a big breath and then just let it go. And it's like, okay, now the mind's over there. And then bam, the body hits. And the pain comes. So you go, just let it be. And if I allow the sword or the electrocution to kill me, literally, it's like, it's almost that amount of fear that I'm going to tighten up and leave. And I just say, it's okay to die. And then if I really can relax through that fear, the pain also sets over there.
Mm-hmm.
and then I get 1/2 breath of peace.
Yeah.
That's about it, you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
there it is. And like you said, as soon as you notice it, boom, it's gone, because you gotta take a breath. You know,
I can help
So
you with this.
where do I go? You know, it's like, okay, now I'm getting to the point where I can write it and then let that pain just hit as hard as it wants, because if I resist it in any way, the cycle continues.
Okay. Understand that the body and the mind are a unit.
Ah,
They're buddies.
there.
Okay? They come as a set. Now your breath is another situation. There's a space between your breaths. So when you breathe in, there's a space, then you breathe out. There's a space. When you breathe in, there's a space. When you breathe out, there's a space. When you're breathing, concentrate on the space between the breaths. If you do this, that space between the breaths, the concentration on that becomes more and more. The breaths become minor, and the space between the breaths becomes major. Now, that space between the breaths is stillness and silence. There are no thoughts there.
Right.
The thoughts come with the breath. So if you used your concentration to focus on the space between the breaths, I'm not saying don't breathe.
Right.
You continue to breathe, but if you focus on the space between the breaths, then it brings you home to that stillness and silence. And then all this stuff can continue going on over here, whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that if you're feeling a lot of pain, you don't do anything about it.
Right.
You do whatever you should do. You know, if my hip hurts, I take Advil. Like that, you see? But if you see how you said you get a half a breath, this will give you as many breaths as you want.
Right.
But you keep your focus in between the breaths, and you live in stillness and silence. If your focus is on the breath, then it comes with thoughts and feelings. Okay? So work with that, and then you can have both. You see, it's like you can be in the silence, and the thoughts and feelings go on, but they're not where your focus is. You see? Work with that for a while, and then you'll get as many breaths as you want. And still live in stillness, you see. Try that.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good meditation for people too, whenever you're sitting quietly. If you concentrate on the space between the breaths, you will notice that that stillness and silence is with you much stronger. So I recommend that. There, try it, see. I give very few instructions,
Oh, that's good.
but this will work.
So lately I've been noticing friends making life decisions out of fear.
Yeah.
You know, totally fear-based as they get older and lose their independence, financial worries, things. And I don't know whether it would be right for me to say, hey, you know, You're running your life out of fear.
I think you have a hunch how that would go.
Why don't you try, whatever? And I just sit here and I feel sorry because as they become older and they're making more decisions out of fear, it's creating more fear.
Yeah, usually the results are not really great when you make decisions out of fear. So you know the story I always tell. When I was at the ashram, and I was trying to decide. I had a job, a good job, but I was at the ashram for a couple weeks. I didn't really want to leave. So I had to make a decision. And I was sitting, and a voice, the first time I ever heard a voice, a spiritual voice came to me and said, "Go with the love in your heart, not the fear in your mind." And ever since then, I've used that as a guideline for how to run my life. But I've never presumed to tell anyone else how to run their life, you see? But I would tell my story of running, how I run my life, you see? People don't like to be told how to live their lives. Basically, why you wouldn't like it, and people don't like that. But if you tell them your personal experience, they can take it or leave it, you see? And it gives them an opportunity in that way. But, everyone's got their own destiny in their own way. And so the fear-based decisions are coming out of a lifetime of fear-based decisions, you see. And so they're just doing things the way they were trained to do them. And you can have compassion. You can have compassion. Yeah, I know. I watched someone once who lived in fear totally ruin her life because this is a long time ago in Maui, and the stock market went down, and she was so afraid, and she was going to sell everything. I said, "Don't do that. Then you lock in your losses." She did. 2 years later, it was double what it was then. So it's like, yeah, but, so much for good advice.
That's all
Everyone is destined to do what they're destined to do. You should have a lot of compassion. There's a lot of suffering going on. You see, you look around, you can see it in people's faces, There's a lot of suffering going on. And basically, I boil it down to personal identification. But that results in all this. You see, when you're identified with yourself as an individual, well, you're identified with yourself as some kind of dust speck living on a dust speck. If you don't feel fear, you're just stupid. That's a fearful way to live. These bodies, they're not predictable. These bodies, some guy's in perfect health, he goes jogging, dies of a heart attack. Some other person's doing great, their life is really happening, a bus hits them. It's like these bodies are not reliable things. And if you're identified with yourself as a body-mind, well, you have every right and expectation to live in fear. So that would be the normal state.
And you talk about identification. This might be as the judgment, but some of my friends, they don't even see who they are.
Of course not. That's how I'm telling you.
And so they're identified with somebody that they're not.
That's right. And that will last for an entire lifetime. But you go to the movies and you don't think about your job and you don't think about your husband and you don't think about your life at home and what you're going to have for dinner. You're just in the movie. That's the way the movie is. If it's a good movie, you're not thinking about anything else. You see, so they're living a good movie. Good for them. Look, it only lasts for a lifetime. That's just a drop in the bucket. That's nothing at all.
Or they're living a stressed out movie because they don't see how smart they are, how rich they are, how many assets they have.
Yes,
And
yes.
so it's poor me kind of thing.
Yes,
or-
and another one's living in a movie where they think they're everything. And they're not, so
Exactly.
it's all just different movies. Someone signed up for the Poor Me movie, someone else signed up for the Great Me movie, someone else signed up for the adventure, someone else signed up for the drama, someone else signed up for a horror flick. You see?
So should Tracy ask herself, why do I want to help everybody and why do I want to fix everything?
Well, that would be the
In
same
order
thing
so
as
that
asking.
she doesn't get,
It's the way she is. So rather than get involved, you see,
just let it.
because she's like, well, why don't they understand? And then I would be like, well, why don't you understand? And then it's just the same thing.
Right.
So this is just the way she is. This is the way God made her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine. She's just doing her thing.
Well, I have the same problem, which is
Yeah.
why I brought it up.
Friend of a friend.
Yeah, friend of a friend. And I got heavily identified with a major movie, and I thought, oh my God, you really want to help, and you want to offer advice, but you know what, they don't want to hear it, and they don't want to know what you think. So you just forgive yourself for getting identified and let it all go. That's what you have to work on is yourself. Same advice you gave Dee.
I'm going to tell you a conversation that my mother had with Kelly. My mother said,
Recently?
yes, this is
Okay.
when we went over to
So
visit
99
her.
years old.
Yeah, she said, she was talking about one of the relatives, she goes, I don't understand it. Nobody listens to my advice, and I have such good advice. And Kelly said, of course they don't listen to your advice, because everybody wants to do it the way they want to do it, and learn their own lessons, whatever it is. That's how it works in life, you see?
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to listen to your advice. People don't care about your advice. Maybe they want your agreement or something like that. Oh, if someone comes to me, I tell them my experience. I tell them something that has happened in my case, like that. But, now being a guru, I give all kinds of advice, I guess. So that's bullshit. But, but most people don't want to hear that, right? And that's why so few people are here. So you just remember that nobody wants to hear your advice so much. That's not what, they might want your agreement, you see, but people don't really, unless someone directly asks you, what do you think I should do? Then that's a different situation. Then they've asked for it. Then you can give it to them.
Okay.
The odds of them asking for it are very, very slim.
That's true.
But it's your nature, you see? Just like my mother. I have such good advice. Why doesn't anybody listen? You see? It's the way it is. She's 99 years old. She's lived a lot of life. She has some good advice. I'm sure. But nobody cares.
It's true.
Yeah. So it's just, everyone has to live out their life according to a particular script. It may not be your script, and you may not agree with how other people do what they do, but in the end, it doesn't matter. Okay? Hopefully you know what's right for you. And if you know what's right for you, that's a gift. Knowing what's right for someone else, who knows? Everyone has to do what they have to do. And, we're getting to the stage in life, a lot of us, where the lessons that are going to be learned have already been learned, and it's pretty much going to run out the way it is. And there are some people who are interested in making adjustments, and most people are not. Most people have a comfort zone and they're living in it. And it doesn't mean they're happy. It doesn't mean it's that comfortable. But they know what it is, and that works, you see? And so that's fine. Why would you want to take that away from someone? And so, I'm sure you have great advice for your friends, and you know how they should be doing their life, and probably better, you see? But nobody wants to hear that, you see? You wouldn't want to hear it. If one of your friends said, I know how you could run your life better, you'd be like, oh, please tell me.
Oh, yeah. You haven't walked in my shoes.
Is that a transmission passed down from other gurus?
That's it, those strictly from me. Yeah.
Special mood drop.
Yeah, that's it. Now let us meditate. We could have a whole movement going on this.
This will go viral.
This one goes on the internet. So on that note, we'll sit quietly for a while.